Hello friends, Arsenal take on Man City in what could be billed as a Premier League final. But how will it go? Who will be coming out on top and who are the main players to really be looking for? Join me today as we head to the tactics board to discuss how the game might turn out. If you enjoyed the video, please leave it with a like and subscribe if you haven't for more content like this coming very soon. Make sure you hit that notification bell as well. You don't want to miss what's coming up in the near future. But now let's talk Arsenal against Man City in what is a Premier League final. Here we have both sides. I've got Arsenal on the left and I've got Man City on the right. Let's run through the lineups really quick. We have Arsenal fielding Zinchenko, Gabriel, Saliba, White, their standard back four. Thomas Partey in that holding central midfield role, making everything tick, making everything go from back to front. We got Martin Odegaard in that right attacking midfield position and Granit Xhaka in that left attacking midfield position. Nothing crazy. Martinelli and Saka will hold the wings and Nketiah will be up front because of no Gabriel Jesus. I've got Man City lined up in a different formation and with different personnel because this is how I think Pep Guardiola will approach it. I think he'll want a more stable structure and I think he'll want to bring in players that have both a good defending ability but also good ability on the transition and on the counter-attack. We'll get to that in just a moment. I've got Kyle Walker, Ruben Diaz, Emirates Laporte and Nathan Ake. Nathan Ake is in there because of his defensive capability. I think he's a bit better defensively on this left-hand side than Rico Lewis. Yes, he doesn't really cut into the midfield like Man City like to do, but I don't think Man City are expecting to have all too much of the ball. I think that's what they want, but I think that Pep will be a little bit more conservative when he goes and looks at the way that Arsenal like to play. I think he'll respect Mikel Arteta and the way his side play and want to really take the control away from them before they start to really dictate play, and in that I think he'll respect the idea that Arsenal want to go forward guns blazing from the off, which is why I've got Nathan Ake in this left back spot. Emirates Laporte and Ruben Diaz are going to need to have a partnership at some point in time. You could argue that this is not the time, however they played quite well together against Aston Villa and I do think they'll come into the starting lineup to start to grind out some momentum for their season going forwards. Rodri and Gundogan make up two central midfielders that will be sitting in front of the back four. Gundogan adding that little bit of defensive stability, allowing him to go forwards and backwards is something that is very crucial. Rodri, we all know what he adds, and I think just sitting in front of that back four next to Gundogan with some added protection will really help him. Moving forwards, we have Riyad Mahrez and Jack Grealish on both flanks. We know how good Mahrez is at cutting inside. We also know he can go on the other channel as well, on down the outside of the box, and that's something that we're going to need to look for when he tries to find Erling Haaland, and the same goes to Jack Grealish. We're very much aware that he's able to cut inside on his other foot, but can he go the other way? Can he make sure and find an angle, find a bit of space to be able to find Erling Haaland? And finding Erling Haaland, I think, is where Man City win this game, and that's why I've got Kevin De Bruyne in this side. He's going to be the central attacking midfielder for this Manchester City setup, and I do think that he is going to be the main person to try and find their in-form striker in Erling Haaland. Right, how will the game play out? Let's start with Arsenal to begin with. Let's have a look at how they will progress. They'll start up by building around the back. I expect Man City to put in some kind of a press, but it wouldn't be too difficult to break, especially with the fine passing that Arsenal have. They'll try to make their way up through the lines and try to get through Bukayo Saka and Martinelli to get down those flanks. It's drawing Man City out in those flanks that's going to cause them the most problems. So let's move them up in this situation and try to show you how that will play out. We move all of these players forward and we have Ben White, Saliba, Gabriel and Zinchenko all supporting. Thomas Partey will be that holding midfielder, just making sure that he's just stopping any kind of counter-attack or transition from happening. But if Bukayo Saka moves out to this right-hand side and he starts to drag players out, he'll start to bring Ake along with him. And what that'll do is just shift Man City just out just a little bit. Laporte will come to cover, of course, but then you have the likes of Martin Odegaard. Gundogan has a big problem here. He doesn't know whether to go and help or assist Nathan Ake, or whether he marks Odegaard. The more likely option is the immediate threat is with Saka, who can beat Ake if he ever wants to in a one-on-one, which means that Odegaard will be free. If Gundogan moves across, it automatically opens up a lot of space for Odegaard, and look at the amount of space and time that Odegaard will have to try and pick a pass. This is where Odegaard lives, this is where Odegaard likes to play, and if we replicate the same thing over on this left-hand side, which is what will happen, Kyle Walker will be drifted out. Yes, it might be a little bit more difficult for Martinelli to beat him, but the same principles still happen. Ruben Dias will make sure that he's trying to cover that channel, and Mahrez will stay for a counter-attacking position, and Rodri will drift across. This will allow extra space for Granit Xhaka to make his darting infield runs past the midfielders and through straight onto the centre-backs. It's this kind of penetration and thorough running that will really allow Arsenal to get some space in the game. Then we haven't even spoken about Eddie Nketiah and the way that he will dictate play in this match. He will be making himself a nuisance. He's actually extremely good with the ball at his feet, so don't be surprised if Martin Odegaard tries to play a couple of 1-2s with him. Eddie Nketiah is more than capable of making sure that he's able to get on the outside of players and play a simple through pass to allow Arsenal to get into the box or to transition themselves onto another side of the pitch. Martin Odegaard, when he picks up the ball and he's under a lot of pressure, don't be also surprised to see him be able to switch the play over to Martinelli. It's all about rotating Man City and getting them into certain positions that Arsenal want them to be in. It's all about pockets of space and allowing Martin Odegaard to really do his work with the largest amount of space that he can be possibly afforded. Now, there is always the question that if they do not follow Bukayo Saka and Martinelli, what happens? Let's just imagine that happens for the time being. We have Ruben Dias, Walker and Rodri all stepping off. This will allow Martinelli to start driving, and that's something you do not want to do. The same with Bukayo Saka. If you give a run on the fullback or onto the centre-back, it's always going to become dangerous. Martinelli has the option to cut inside. Granit Xhaka will know this and drop that little bit deeper. Martin Odegaard will make himself useful inside the middle of the pitch once Xhaka vacates it, and it all of a sudden becomes that little bit more difficult for Man City, especially once you have extremely dangerous players like Martinelli and Saka running at your back four. The crosses can then come in for Eddie Nketiah, who should be lying in the middle of the box, and it's going to be down to those Man City centre-backs to really stop them from playing those passes, to stop them from getting the ball to the striker and getting that easy tap-in. All of this will happen in the blink of an eye, and it will be the drifting of Martin Odegaard that will really dictate the way that Arsenal like to go forwards and the way and the tempo that Arsenal like to play at. But there's also a massive element of risk here. If we just flip over to the Man City side for this moment, I think that Man City will be wanting this, which is why I've set them up in this particular scenario. If we just turn over to Man City for a moment, Erling Haaland is going to be the main and key player here. Him and Kevin De Bruyne, who will also be doing his defensive duties to try and help out Odegaard and Xhaka. That being said, he will also be looking to get the ball back on the transition. Gundogan and Rodri should be able to help with that, and their first point of call will be finding Kevin De Bruyne. The moment that Kevin De Bruyne ever gets the ball, Haaland should be making a run into one of these channels. When Arsenal go forwards, because they're at home and because they want to dominate the match and really impose themselves on the game, they do leave spaces in behind. Thomas Partey is going to do a very good job of trying to shuffle and make sure that Haaland doesn't get the ball, but Haaland should physically impose himself on Partey, and it should be very difficult for Haaland to really get, or if it should be very difficult for Partey to really get anything on Haaland. When this happens and De Bruyne gets the ball, what you're going to see is De Bruyne try to find these channels. Might be a little bit close to goal, but generally you're going to have him look for these areas, and when this happens, it screams danger bells and danger for Arsenal. When they go forwards, when they do find these channels, it's going to be extremely dangerous for Arsenal to defend, because then you have Gabriel running back towards his own box, then you have Saliba running back to his own box, you have White running back to his own box, and it all of a sudden becomes a little bit hectic. Ramsdale is going to need to do a lot of work to try and make sure that these spaces are covered. He's going to need to come out into the area and make sure that Haaland cannot get on the end of it. If Haaland does and he starts to use his pace and goes towards goal, it's nearly game over. Ramsdale will need to either make a save or, far worse, Haaland will score. So it's all about maintaining that level of pressure and that level of intensity that Arsenal need, while also creating and maintaining that balance in the defence that they want. Haaland will be looking for the ball in behind, and this is what we've spoken about on this channel previously. He likes the ball in behind, he likes to run onto it, he likes to make sure that he's able to utilise that pace that he has, the power that he has, the ability in behind the centre-backs that he has to really dominate them. He can do that, and he has the pace and the power and the physical ability, not to mention the finishing capacity, to be able to finish off chances. And if De Bruyne gets the ball, he'll be looking for Haaland through the lanes, through the passes, and with the way that Arsenal split and the way that Arsenal centre-backs end up splitting to allow extra support for the rest of the team, Thomas Partey will drop that a little bit deeper. It just leaves a little bit too much space for my liking as an Arsenal looking from an Arsenal point of view. I'm by no means an Arsenal fan, but these are the kind of problems that I'm seeing with the way that Arsenal play. The problem is that no team has been able to exploit it because Arsenal have been so good on the transition and on the counter press. They've been making sure that once they lose the ball, they are able to recover it. That being said, Man City are a well-oiled machine, and they will nearly know the positions of certain players before they even play the pass, which means that they're able to do things within a split second. And the moment that Haaland is on his bike and running towards goal, one-on-one with the keeper, there is generally only one outcome. Now, Man City do have another part to play in this, and that is the way that they want to attack and the way they go forwards. So let's have a look at that right now. I've got this set up here again. We'll reset and go again. When Man City go forwards, they like to dominate possession. When this happens, Nathan Ake will generally move into a little bit of a central midfield role to allow for an extra bit of possession. Laporte will come across, and so will Diaz and Walker, creating something of a back three. This will be the same back three that we saw against Aston Villa when Man City beat them by 3-1. But specifically, what I want to look at is when Arsenal are defending, they will generally defend not so deep, but they will generally defend quite narrow to stop Man City from going through them. And this is where I think Man City need to ask more of their main players. And it's their main attacking players that I want them to ask more of, because when you see Man City go forwards and you see them really try to dictate play, I think that Erling Haaland is being a little bit wasted. There is a video on my channel, if you'd like to go watch it, of how Man City are failing Haaland and failing to find the space to get him into the box and failing to get passes into him when he desperately needs them. Jack Grealish, let's have a look at him for a moment. If Jack Grealish picks up the ball, which he generally does, he likes to drive at Ben White, but he stops at a certain moment and then recycles possession, passes round to Ake, or he passes back to De Bruyne, or he passes back to Gundogan. He never ever tries to find the cross for Haaland, and when he does, it's normally quite laboured, it's normally quite forced, and that means that he doesn't actually get the quality on it that he needs, or that he ever would want. De Bruyne is going to need to make some infield runs through past the centre-backs and through into that channel that we know and like, the channel between the centre-back and the full-back, and we know that this is a dangerous channel on both sides. We know how difficult it is for teams to defend against it, and Arsenal are no exception. Mahrez can do exactly the same thing. However, De Bruyne is going to need to move over to the other side to make those runs again. Rodri is not going to be making those runs, and neither is Gundogan. Gundogan might be unleashed if Ake comes into midfield, and then you have an extra midfielder in the space, but it depends how defending Man City want to be. Arsenal are also dangerous on the counter-attack, but nowhere near as dangerous as Erling Haaland. Martinelli is their only real point of call, and Martinelli will be out on this left-hand side next to Kyle Walker, who should be able to shuffle him out and shuttle him across to stop him from making any of those infield runs. So it's all about maintaining possession and really throttling the opposition. And if Man City find the quality, if Man City find their feet, if Riyad Mahrez is able to drift into this extra pocket down towards the byline and then cut in and across, the same goes for Jack Grealish. If De Bruyne makes those runs, he could also pass to him. It's all about feeding Erling Haaland. The more times you feed him, the more times he has an option to get on the ball. He will find the ball in the box. Make no mistake about that. He has the quality to really make sure that he's able to make nearly something out of nothing. And with the amount that Arsenal will pack in that defence, with the amount that Arsenal will defend, you have to rely on your striker to win the duel. And I believe, especially with the problems that Gabriel and William Saliba had against the likes of Ivan Toney in their last game against Brentford, they won 4 combined out of 17 aerial duels. Now, if that's not screaming that Erling Haaland can do something in this game, I don't know what does. So Jack Grealish needs to make those crosses, Mahrez needs to make those crosses, and De Bruyne needs to play his game. Run in between these channels and find the spaces to get those cutbacks to Erling Haaland. Who are going to be my main players for this game? Who will really be setting the world light, and who do you need to be looking out for when this game kicks off? Well, I don't think it's any surprise that my player on the Arsenal side is going to be Martin Odegaard. It's all going to run through him. It's all going to be about how he makes sure that he's able to pick up those positions, pick up those pockets, and pick up those real ideal pieces of space that are going to allow Arsenal to tick. Remember about those crossfield passes as well, switching the play to the likes of Martinelli or playing a through ball to Bukayo Saka. It's all going to run through Martin Odegaard. Thomas Partey is going to be a crucial element in keeping Man City out. That being said, I do think that Odegaard is going to be the only way that Arsenal really start flowing, take him out of the side, and they start to struggle, I believe. On Man City's side, what are we going to see? Well, I do think that defensively they're going to need to be on their A game. This is a back four that probably won't have played together for quite some time, which means that there is going to be some rustiness. That being said, I'm not going to go for one of the back four. I'm actually going to go for Kevin De Bruyne, because it's going to be him looking for the likes of Erling Haaland, and I think it's the play in transition that Man City are going to really hurt Arsenal on. I think Arsenal are going to want to assert themselves, dominate the game, and show why they are one of the teams going for this Premier League title. That being said, in doing that, I think they might show some kind of naiveness. I think they will show some kind of naivety towards this game, and then it will be doing this that I think Pep will change his tactics and go to a more transitional counter-attacking formation, allowing Erling Haaland to really spread his legs, break through that backline defence, and make sure that he gets some transitional goals. If he's ever going to do that, and if Man City are going to look towards that, I believe that Kevin De Bruyne is going to be the man to find him. Similarly, if they do try to opt for their pressing style, for their control in the game, I do believe that Kevin De Bruyne will be the player to unlock the door if Arsenal shuffle back into that low block position. It's going to be an extremely interesting game. Tactically, it's going to be absolutely fascinating, and I cannot wait to watch it. My prediction is going to be Man City taking this game just by 1 goal, I would say. I'd say it's either going to be 1-0 or 2-1. It's going to be a very interesting game, and I can't wait to watch it. Let me know what you think about who is going to be winning this, who is going to be doing well, and how you think the game is going to play out. Regardless, it should be a classic in what is a Premier League final. That's it for today, guys. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave the video with a like and subscribe if you haven't for more content like this coming very soon. Make sure you hit that notification bell as well. You don't want to miss what's coming up in the near future. And like I said, let me know your thoughts on the game in the comment section below. Who you think is going to win? Who is going to come out on top? Is it Pep? Is it Arteta? Or will it be a draw? Let me know how you see this match. I'd love to hear from you. But like I said, that's it from me for today. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, my friends, take care of yourselves and bye-bye.